Louisa Barton here for the Horse Talk Show, and I am going to show you how I prefer to muck a stall. So first of all, I would say make sure your wheelbarrow is all the way in your stall, because if it's just outside the door, some of the shavings and manure are obviously going to drop outside. Now there's a couple of things to bear in mind. If you have a horse in the stall with you and you're just trying to pick a few manure piles, you obviously would just come in and you would do a simple grab a manure pile like this, shake the clean shavings off the manure, and then deposit it straight in there. So that's if you are just doing a quick pickup. So in other words, maybe the horse is in, you need to work around him, or perhaps you're about to bring him in and you don't have time to do a complete muck, so you're just going to get the manure pile. So that's very quick and easy. But if you've just turned your horse out and he's been in the stall for some time, like overnight or all day, you may have a lot more manure and urine also in the stall to pick up. So the first thing I do if I want to do a good thorough cleaning is I bank. Now one of the reasons I bank is because a lot of horses are like cats and they like to bury the manure, or perhaps they pace around in the stall in the night and the bedding goes on top. So where you might see visible manure, you might also have manure where you don't see it because it's covered in bedding. So what I do when I'm going to do a thorough clean, and one of the things that's nice is if you know your horse very well, you know where they tend to urinate. And a lot of horses will urinate in the same place, which makes it much easier to find the urine. So as you can see, as I'm banking up this clean bedding, what is happening? Manure is rolling out that was actually hidden underneath. So what I then do is I scoop all of that up. And you'd be surprised how when you pull this bedding back down, you will often find more manure that you missed. So I just throw this up against the wall. And as you see, the more I throw it, the more that the heavier piles of manure or small stool will actually fall out on the ground. And this side, as you can see, is not a side that Flynn uses as much for going to the bathroom. And as you can see, very obvious there, that there is urine. You can see that by the dark color. And I know that Flynn tends to urinate right here. So I'm going to flip that over. See how I can find the urine. And then again, banking up, we'll let those manure piles roll out that are hidden, so I get those. Careful in this process that you are not throwing the urine up into your banks, because that's going to be your dry bedding when you're done. Trying to find those urine piles first is always going to be your wisest thing, but if you have a horse that actually always urinates in the same spot, then I always recommend grabbing that first. That way you won't be throwing that wet urine up into your dry bedding. See how the poos are all falling out? So the manure will actually fall out for you, which is actually what makes you save a lot more bedding that you don't pick up, because if you every time you pick up a pile of manure, you always get some bedding no matter what. But I think you get a lot less bedding when you do this, because what tends to happen, especially for horses that pace in the stall a lot, is that all gets churned around during the night especially. And also if you have a horse that lies down at night in the stall, a lot of times what will happen is the manure gets moved. Before you do this, I would go ahead and check really well for your urine piles, and then you won't throw that urine up in these nice dry banks. And then you're going to get all those loose piles there that have gone into the beddings. Always shake your pitchfork, because the more you shake your pitchfork, the more you're going to get rid of the clean bedding. You don't want to throw your clean bedding away. Now once you have a really nice clean stall, and I'm going to tell you a little tip when I'm done here to look out for and be aware of, because there are some piles that will not come out no matter what you do. But as you can see, this is a nice, clean, now fairly well picked up stall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my PDZ and I am going to just sprinkle that lightly on those urine piles, just to help dry out the ground and get rid of some of the urine smell. You don't need a lot. An average stall that a horse has been in overnight, it's probably about a half a cup. So you're going to sprinkle that. Now throughout your day, this is going to dry out and become less smelly. And then at night, what you're going to do is you're going to pull the banks back down. So what you're going to do is you're going to do this. Now, I always have the wheelbarrow handy for this, because more often than not, if your horse is a little bit like a cat and likes to really bury the manure in corners, you may pull it down and find a few more that you missed. So it's good to have the wheelbarrow handy just in case, but you're going to pull it all back down. So far, I really haven't come across any piles, which is great, but every once in a while, you'll get one that gets really, really tight up in a corner, and it'll come down just like that. When you pull it back out, there may be those last few little piles that might come out. This is actually Piranha spray here, which is actually fantastic timing for the spray master to actually go off as I'm cleaning the stall. This goes off periodically throughout the day to keep the fly load down. One thing I will say, and this is not an option for everybody if you work for a living and you're gone all day, but if you are home and you're able to do the stall, Kyle DeCillo from Piranha said to me one of the most important things about helping this fly master system to be as effective as possible is getting rid of the manure as quickly as you can, because obviously the longer the manure is in the stall, the more the flies are going to be attracted. So if you have the option of getting up early and doing your stalls in the morning, or if you're turning your horses out at night, bringing them in during the day, again, having that time to muck the stall right away is obviously going to help with the fly population. And we're going to just pull all this nice clean down now on top. Picked up the last few manure piles, and what you're going to do then is you're able to put your clean bedding on top if needed. If you need to pad it up a little bit, this stall does probably need another bag of bedding in here, so we can put that on top. And then I tend to sweep this back here and have the stall be about 2/3. That way that keeps this bucket area where the feed and water is clear, and it also stops you losing a lot of bedding out the stall door. Horses, as they walk in and out, are going to carry that bedding. So I'm going to grab the broom and show you that I sweep this back. So what I do is I then move the bedding back away from the door, which helps with you having a messy barn in the front because it all wants to fly out the door. Also, you don't need bedding underneath water buckets at all. There's no need for that. So I like to sweep this back and give the horse about 2/3 of the stall rather than the whole stall of bedding. Plenty of room for him to lie down. And again, it's going to limit your loss of shavings out the door when the horse walks in and out. And it also keeps this area where, you know, we have the salt pan, the feed bucket and the water buckets. And I actually feed on the floor because it's actually the healthiest way for a horse to eat, because that's how they eat in the natural. Here's your stall. And again, I would add another couple of bags of bedding to this now. So there you go, Stall Mucking 101.